Hello, everyone. This is Saul Landesman, the Marketing Director here at PracticePanther. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us here today and let you know to please send us any questions you have in the chat, and we'll cover all of them at the end. We're also going to be recording this webinar, so everyone will receive an email afterwards to review it. So we're really excited to have Nick Rishwain with us on the line. He's going to tell everyone about the tools, the platforms, the processes, and the importance of good content online. So Nick, first off, I want to thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you, Saul. I appreciate it. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. So to start things off, I'll give everyone just a little bio about Nick. Nick is the VP of Client Relations and Development for Experts.com, an online marketing platform for expert witnesses and consultants. He is also the co-founder of LegalTechLIVE, a live video podcast for advancements in legal technology. So Nick, you obviously have quite an impressive resume. So tell us a little bit more about your background and how you got involved in the legal industry.
Yeah, thanks, Saul. So I've been a law school graduate and went to work in county government as in essentially trusts in estates for conservatees. In many states they call those guardians, but in California we call it conservatees. And after a few years in that area, I got exhausted with public service. I wanted to go into something that I felt like I was building something, and Experts.com was looking for somebody with my background, and that's how I found myself in the legal tech, law and legal tech industry, and took to it, have a passion for the area, especially the advancements. As you mentioned, one of my hobbies is the live video podcast, LegalTechLIVE. So being in the legal community, in the legal tech community, I found great interest in all the advancements that are taking place in that industry, and have continued in it for about 7 years now.
Wow, so that's cool. So you have both like a legal background and also like the social media, the tech background as well. You bring a lot of experience to the table, and you're also the co-host of Social Chatter. So
yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Social Chatter is it's a live video show, live video, maybe you could call it a podcast as well, similar to LegalTechLIVE. It's run by social chefs, and I simply co-host that on Thursday nights, and it's live. It's broadcast live on Facebook.com. So I did a show for that last night. LegalTechLIVE is usually on Saturdays around 10 a.m. Pacific time. And so I've been pretty active for the last couple of years in the live video space of social media, both professionally for Experts.com as well as outside my time in Experts.com. I have come up with a couple of other social media, social-based shows, social video-based shows. So I'm pretty active in the space.
Wow, that's awesome. So for everybody listening, you're really getting a good look at somebody who has great experience and background in social media and legal. So great for us. So, Nick, tell us a little bit about what's on today's agenda.
Yeah, so I don't know essentially who our audience is as far as where they're at in their knowledge of social media and content creation and scheduling and platform understanding. So I'm going to cover essentially a little bit of all of that. I know that attorneys have a lot on their plates as far as, especially if you're a solo practitioner or a small firm, you've got to do the legal work, you've got to do the business side of it, you've got to do the marketing side of it, and there doesn't seem to be enough time for it all. So I hope to give you some ideas of things that can minimize your effort, make things a little bit less stressful for you on the content marketing side. So we'll cover some of the tools that you use to automate your content marketing, understand what content works best, as Saul put it here, for maximizing your ROI and maximizing your visibility. And then most importantly, we want to limit the stress, and we want to limit the amount of time that you're putting into this. That's where we're going to talk about some automation tools.
Okay, awesome. So obviously today, content marketing is king. And obviously content is king, and obviously there needs to be a balance for attorneys in terms of how much time they spend, marketing, and how much time they spend, obviously, practicing.
Right.
So it's cool. So hopefully today we'll be able to save you some time, but still be able to get that reach and, make your content awesome. So let's go ahead. We actually have a poll going up. So poll is, do you currently use scheduling tools to post on social media or your blog? So let me post this right now. And everybody, let me post this. So you can go ahead and click yes or no to the question, and I will share the results with you in real time. So let's give everybody just a few seconds to answer this.
Okay.
Wow.
And this will give us a good idea of where to spend more time at in this webinar. We may have to change our approach a little bit if everybody is really up to date on these things.
Right. So so it looks like there seems to be one major answer. What do you think, Nick, people are answering right now?
Well, I'm hoping people are answering yes, but in my experience, the answer has been no. So it'll give me a good idea of what direction to take this.
Yeah, so your experience is actually right. I'm going to share the results with everybody right now. 67% say that they do not currently use scheduling tools to post on social media, but it is good that 33% are. So what do you make of these results?
This is, it's actually 33% is a little better. 33% yes, that they are using scheduling tools is better than I expected. So that's a positive in my experience. And for the other 2/3 who are not using it, hopefully we'll give you an idea of some ways to save some time and reuse your content across multiple platforms without having to go and log into every platform to post something, because you can only do that once or twice before you decide it's not worth continuing to repost this.
Right. Awesome. So let me go and hide this and then continue. Okay, let's move on. Okay, cool. So Nick, talk to us a little bit about all the platforms that attorneys can post on.
Yeah. Okay. So some of this information is not going to be new to those of you, because it seems if you were all answering that last question, then you're probably familiar with most of these platforms. But let's just cover them because they have different features. So you've got Facebook, your standard Facebook profile. I'm hoping that many of you also have a Facebook page for your law firm. You probably heard, or I'm hoping that you've heard about Facebook Live, which is another feature available to live stream in Facebook. LinkedIn, I'm hoping everybody is familiar with and have at least a profile over there. Twitter is pretty common. It's in all of our parlance these days. And Twitter has their live video feature, which is Periscope, which is a separate app that may be integrating into Twitter, or is integrating into Twitter, and will probably be known as Twitter Live in the near future. Then Instagram, and Instagram also has its own live video component to it. YouTube, and YouTube is working on their own live video component. So if you're seeing a theme here or a trend, it's that almost all of these are getting some form of a live video component to them. Cool. Snapchat is, I know what most people think is that it's for younger people to send inappropriate messages. It's actually a great tool, and I'm not going to tell you that you have to use it right now. You probably want to focus your energy on the first 4 of those items, maybe the first 5. but let's not forget about Google Plus, because lawyers still love to use Google Plus. I think that's because many of them use Gmail and use a lot of the other information or features available on Google Plus. Nobody else is there, so your clients aren't going to see your information there, but it does serve a purpose as far as search engine optimization is concerned. So don't necessarily go away from posting on Google Plus just yet, but rest assured your clients are not likely to see what you're posting there, at least not on the Google Plus page. And then there's third-party sites which you may want to consider, and of course there's Avo, there's JD Supra, and naturally I'm going to put experts.com in there. Self-serving maybe, but there are value to using third-party sites that are less social in nature.
Right.
And we can talk more about that in the future or in future slides.
Right. And what's cool about this is that now attorneys, they have so many options to choose when they're engaging with their, future clients or, just people in general. They just have so many options. And, actually down the road, I think in the later slide, we'll discuss in more detail, how you post on each different platform, how you schedule. It's like a totally different strategy. So hopefully we'll be getting into that later on. Okay, so now we've talked about all the platforms. Now we're going to talk about the scheduling tools. So next, so tell me about your experiences using Buffer.
Yeah, so Buffer is the one, and now we're gonna tell you about two different scheduling tools. One of which I do not have personal experience with, but I wanted you to be aware of it. Now, Buffer is the one that I have both personal and professional experience with. So Buffer I use for my personal stuff. Buffer is also what experts.com uses for all of our social scheduling, our social automation. It is relatively cheap. And I think it's a great tool, and if you're a small firm solo practitioner and you're doing much of this yourself, or your associate's doing it, or a associate or a legal secretary, paralegal, administrator, somebody like that is helping you with these things, this is the kind of tool that you probably will find sufficient for your needs. It's a content publishing platform is how it's described. It lets you publish and schedule content to your social networks. So it supports Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google+, and Pinterest. And we use it primarily professionally, and use it personally primarily for Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Google+. And those are essentially the areas that I'm most active, both personally and professionally. So it's been a great tool for me, and we find that the analytics included they're fairly simple analytics. We found that they are sufficient for our needs here at experts.com, because we do have some other tools that we use for analytics, so we didn't need anything more robust than this. So yeah,
Okay, cool.
I find it to be an excellent tool.
Cool. And actually, I was on Buffer the other day, and there's actually, people ask us all the time, like, when's the best time to post a social media post on Facebook or Twitter? And I think there's a tool on Buffer that automatically analyzes all of your past posts, and it suggests the best times to post to get the maximum engagement. I know this is a little bit more advanced, but have you ever had experience using that tool?
Yeah, so I do go by their recommended times for posting. Do use that tool. Now, you will notice that there are some limitations with it, because a lot of times they will put you heavily around the times in the evening and lunchtime in your particular time zone. But let me kind of add to this that what you probably want to do is, if you're posting to Twitter, the Guy Kawasaki, who is well known in the social media world, as well as others who go with, you should be posting to Twitter approximately 20 times a day. That's a little overwhelming for me even.
Wow.
I think it's a little, it's got to be overwhelming for those who follow those people. But I'm pretty active across Twitter 6 or 8 times a day from different accounts. So,
wow.
So that is, it is probably a good idea, in which is where Buffer comes in really handy, extremely handy, would be for Twitter multi-publishing. Now, they'll recommend something like 2 posts a day for Facebook and 2 posts a day for LinkedIn, and I think 2 posts a day for Google+. At least that's what they recommend to us.
Cool. And
for
actually,
Twitter, there's almost no limit to how many times, because Twitter is a fire hose of information. So to be seen, you have to be tweeting.
Right. And I was actually reading Guy Kawasaki. He mentions, I think on his personal Twitter, he would post the same thing in the morning and the same thing in the afternoon, the same thing at night, because he would say that, for different people, they see Twitter at different times of day. So he wanted to make sure, they would get that message. And actually also, Guy Kawasaki is actually the chief evangelist at Canva.com. It's actually one of the tools that we're going to be talking about later on. So just a cool thing to know. I actually also had a question about, how did you, when you started with experts.com, were they already using Buffer, or you were looking around at different platforms and you just said, oh, Buffer is the best one? Were you looking at different platforms? What made you decide on Buffer?
Yeah, so it was basically when we decided to crank up our social visibility a few years back. It was I was given the task, and so I started just research the way that our attendees might go to LexisNexis or Westlaw to, I would say, the law library, but I'm not sure anybody goes to those any longer. Or if they do, it's probably on a rare occasion. But I started researching in depth the way that I would have researched to write a memo of points and authorities or something like that. And then I started connecting with folks who are active in social media. I started following those that I became friends with or had followed, and started listening to what they were using. And Buffer came to be the one that seemed that many of those who are very active in social media marketing recommended by and large, and we'll tell you why Buffer is recommended by so many social media, what is referred to as influencers today. But we can talk about that when we get to Hootsuite. It's mostly because Hootsuite is a much more robust platform.
Right. And for everybody watching today, generally, what's the price range for using Buffer?
Yeah, so without referring to our account, I'm not, I guess I am logged in right now, but without referring, I think I pay personally $10 a month, and I think we pay something similar to that for use at experts.com. So it's a pretty, we may pay for a little bit more than that on Experts, but you can probably get, if you're, I don't know what our law firm demographics are like, if we have people from big law as well as small and medium-sized firms, but I'm going to assume that most of the folks in here learning
it's a very, very small investment that will save you a lot of time. Literally,
mm-hmm.
You can make, you have your post ready on a Sunday, spend 20, 30 minutes, and you'll schedule it out throughout the week or the month, and it just, you let it ride. And for $10, it's totally worth it.
Yeah,
Totally worth
and
it.
you can, and I should say, you can link just about, I think for $10 a month, you can link multiple Twitter accounts if you have them, if you have need for that. Multiple Twitter accounts, Google Plus page, your Facebook profile, and your LinkedIn page, and I believe Pinterest as well now. So you can, I think up to 10 different social media accounts can be linked for $10 a month.
Wow. And I didn't know, so they added Pinterest recently?
I think
remember,
they may have been, unless it's just a notification system for when you should post on the way they have for Instagram. It may be for Instagram. They have this. They have Pinterest. Yeah, they do have Connect. I'm on the Connect to Social network now, and they do have Pinterest, and then they have reminders for Instagram.
Cool. All right. So Buffer is looks like a pretty sweet tool. Simple to use and pretty simple. Really awesome. Good benefits and very, it's a good investment to have. And actually, I'll show you in the next slide. Buffer actually created this tool called Pablo. So we're talking about, with Buffer, you already have existing content that you want to share and schedule. So for that, you're going to use Buffer. But let's say you don't have content already. Let's say you need to make content, let's say for a Facebook post, a Twitter post, Pinterest, Instagram, whatever it is. They created this tool called Pablo that lets you create it, instantly, literally in like less than 2 to 3 minutes. So I actually have I want to do a live demonstration of this.
Excellent.
Let me see over here. So Pablo by Buffer. Okay, cool. So this is actually for everybody who can see on my screen. This is what Pablo actually looks like live. So you just go to, type into Google pablo.buffer.com, and you'll see the screen over here. They might give you some, tutorial pop-ups, but you can just skip that. But basically what this does is help you create posts in less than 2 to 3 minutes. So if you see to my screen note to the left over here, you can click different images that you want for your background. For example, you click this, you click the trees over here, so that will be your background. If you click twice over here, you can edit text. So for example, let's say I want to do a post, a nice quote. Let's say, I love webinars. I'll do Saul. So literally as simple as that, you just made a post. And it says over here you can search for over 600,000 different images. That's quite a lot. So for example, let's say I want a background of a computer, of the webinar or whatever. So let me type in computer, and there you go. Click that. Perfect. So you got the background of a computer. You can just add your text, and then when you're done, you can click the different sizes over here. So for example, Pinterest. I think that's Instagram, and for Facebook and Twitter.
Excellent.
And then, exactly, and I literally did this in like 7 seconds, literally.
Yeah.
And then, and then you're good to go. And once you're done, you can share. You can share on Facebook, you can share on Twitter. Literally, that simple. Let me go back to PowerPoint over here. So I'm having a little.
That's a good tool for anybody who, you see the photos and the quotes with on Twitter or Facebook. You're wondering how people are doing them. This is one of those platforms that they're using. There's another one I think we'll cover a little in a little bit, and we'll talk about that more.
Right. Awesome. So let me.
So that's Buffer for scheduling.
Right. Okay, cool. So we got Hootsuite. So Hootsuite, tell me a little bit about Hootsuite.
Yeah, so Hootsuite is one that I don't use and haven't used, but I wanted you to be aware of it in case you have a little bit larger operation and you wanted to. Again, it's similar to Buffer in its capabilities. And it's a social media management platform. Doing the same, many similar things as far as managing and automating your social media channels. They support Facebook for both for all profile pages, groups. They support Twitter, LinkedIn, Google Plus, and it looks like WordPress. There's some WordPress integrations there, so if your website or your blog or both are on WordPress, this may be beneficial to you. And they have a lot of other integrations, like so many application integrations that I didn't even bother writing them down because some of them I don't even know or use. So it's a pretty robust platform. It is out there. I don't know the pricing on it, but I wanted you to have a second option of scheduling tools that you may want to use or look into. You may want to do some comparison shopping and see what the prices are and see if some of those other integrations might work for you.
Right. And what I like about Hootsuite is that, like you said, you can connect to all your different social media platforms, the Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, but you can also, like you mentioned in the integrations, integrate with a lot of different apps. For example, your example you see over here on your screen, Freshdesk, for example. Let's say you have on your website, you have a little help desk pop-up. Let's say somebody asks you a question on your website. Instead of actually going into that app, you can integrate it straight into Hootsuite. So not only do you have all your social media mentions, your posts, you also have, people asking you live on your website questions. And, it's good to have like on one platform as opposed to going into, to Facebook or to Twitter separately and to Freshdesk separately. You have basically everything into one platform. So it's super simple to use. And you can also respond to each message and mention directly through Hootsuite. So definitely an amazing, amazing tool to use. Obviously, I think between Hootsuite and Buffer, they're a little, I think Hootsuite's a little bit more on the, a little bit more advanced side. So if you're just starting out, I would suggest using Buffer to get started out with. But Hootsuite's definitely a good way to go if you're managing multiple accounts and you want to see everything.
And you have multiple
users.
You can delegate tasks to multiple users, and it's pretty advanced. And I'm assuming that they have maybe a more, possibly a superior enterprise level capabilities. If you're a larger firm, you may be interested in more enterprise level capabilities. I'm assuming that Hootsuite would be sufficient for you. But check them both out. Try and do a demo on both of them if you can, and see which one. Because look, the setup may be, you might just like the setup better, and you may be more familiar with it technologically, or just the aesthetic of it may be more appropriate for you. I'm not pitching either one of these, as I'm simply providing the information. There's no financial benefit for me either way. I wanted our users to just know what's out there. And I think there are many others out there, but these seem to be the two that I hear about the most, and one of which I use regularly.
Right, yeah, Hootsuite's massive. And like you said, I think most agencies, I guess social media agencies, use Hootsuite to have like crazy robust analytics on Hootsuite, in terms of social media ROI and that sort. So I guess starting out, obviously, sign up for both. I believe there's a free, you can use Hootsuite for free, if I'm not mistaken.
There is a free service for Hootsuite, so you may try that out first and see what that's like. And Buffer might have they might have a try it free for 14 days. I'm looking on our Buffer account right now, and it looks like they've got a 14-day free trial.
Oh, cool. So, so for those of you watching, if you're debating between which scheduling platform you want to use, just try out both. See which one you like. Some people like Hootsuite, some people like Buffer. It's really up to you. So really cool. We love to give different options.
Actually, yeah, okay. It looks like Buffer does allow you to have a free account, but I'm not sure if it's just limited to whether or not you sign in with Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn, it may just cover that one account for free. So check them both out.
Right, exactly. Okay, this is actually a really cool, you'll see the social media hacks over here. So for those of you, who have multiple social media profiles and but you really, let's say you're very, very pressed for time, you can actually use a tool called IFTTT, which stands for if, then that. So basically it sounds very complicated, but it's actually really, really simple. Basically what this means is that you can set up different triggers on your social media profile. So for example, whenever I post on Twitter, I can set up a trigger that that same post will post to my Facebook account. Or whenever I post to Facebook, that can go to my Instagram account. So basically what this does is you can post on one place and it'll automatically post on every other platform that you set it to. So if, for example, I post to Twitter, then it'll post to XYZ, whatever you want it to set it to. But this is like an amazing, amazing social media hack, as we call it, for those of you who really, very, very pressed for time, but super, super awesome tool. So I would look in, when you're doing your research on different social media tools, such as like Hootsuite Buffer, take a look at IFTT. Really, really amazing tool. I believe they're also free, but I would have to double check on that for you. Okay, cool. So now that we talked a little bit about the platform, so what type of content would be good to post about?
Yeah, so you could probably come up with a list of content that's 20 or 30 items long for different ideas for content. I kept it pretty simple here. Let's focus on your blog posts, your images or photos, images similar to what you just shared on Pablo, or photos of yourself, photos of the firm, that type of thing. Video, live video, and webinars. So you can see that this is not all that you can post. You've heard of infographics, I'm assuming. There's a plethora of items that you can come up with as content, but we're going to just keep it kind of simple. So I'm assuming, or I'm hoping, that most everybody here has a law firm website and blog, in that the blog may or may not be directly on the law firm website, but I'm assuming that you have a blog, and here's some ideas for blog posts. Recent case or recent case law that came out about a particular topic in your area of practice. Case studies, this is more of the let me tell you about a case that I recently worked on. And of course, you want to remove client names and identifying information in a case study and just concentrate on the facts. Think about writing in that old IRAC issue rule analysis conclusion format. You can write about certain anecdotes, some experience that you had or one of your clients had, and how you think that they could have handled it differently or better, or how you did recommend that they handle it, and the outcome of that. Interesting cases and case studies. It looks like I was essentially repeating myself there. And then you can do blog posts on frequently asked questions by clients. So if you get a question that's free, and these are just a few ideas, if you get a question that's frequently asked, you might turn it into a blog post to help answer some of those questions. In that blog post, guess what? You may later include it in email newsletters to clients, because you're trying to answer this frequently asked question. Images and photos, so we kind of went over images already. I separate the two. I call them images versus photos because, as you saw with Pablo through Buffer, or Canva is something else we're going to talk about shortly, they're more stock images. And in photos, I'm thinking of you taking selfies, or you taking pictures of you and your firm, or outside the courthouse, maybe something around the office, something you're doing in the community, don't forget to add some of the personal touches. A hobby that you're doing, or an event that you're speaking at, or your animals. If you got a dog or a cat or something like that, add them in there, mix it up a little bit. Video is another great option for you these days. There are video marketing firms available to help you with video. If you have any questions about those, I have somebody I can refer you to. But you can do in video format and upload to YouTube. Frequently asked questions again. Maybe something fun or exciting. Maybe case law, case studies, anecdotes. You can do those in a video. An update on new legislation that affects your practice area. Commentary on a major news story. So if you're in trust and estates, and there is one of those big family battles over a trust, where there's millions of dollars at stake, you might turn that into a video, or look up above a blog post. Commentary on Supreme Court, the nomination process, or a recent Supreme Court decision if it's applicable. So a lot of different topics and items that you might want to think about for this type of content. And then there's live video, and I separate video and live video because live video is much more participatory. If you think back to our first slide where I talked about Facebook and Facebook Live, Twitter and Periscope, or Twitter and Twitter Live, Instagram and Instagram Live. You get the idea that live video is becoming much more important. It's where I'm active even in my off time with LegalTechLIVE and with Social Chatter. Those are both live video shows. You get the idea that live video is becoming quite important, or certainly pertinent at this point. So it's much the same as regular video, but you want to participate with your audience. Or so Facebook Live and in Periscope or Twitter Live, I use those interchangeably. Periscope and Twitter Live are used interchangeably at this point, because you can go live from either one of the apps and it still shows up on your Twitter feed. You will have an audience that will show up and ask questions and interact. So they'll text while you're talking. They will text. They might ask questions. They might just say hi, and you'll have to sort of stop in between doing that. You may have to stop at some point and answer these questions. So it's not going to be it's not going to flow the same way it is if you do a particular recorded video and then post that somewhere. So just be aware of that for live video. The way we do it, we have multi-person video on the shows that I do in my spare time, and the shows can be pretty interesting because you can also take questions that way, but you're interviewing a guest or you're talking to somebody in your community, and that can be a really great way for you to get to know your audience or get to know those future customers. And then webinars. We're doing a webinar right now. Here's another fairly simple way for you to create content that may be valuable to your audience or to your, when I say your audience, I mean your prospective clients or existing clients. And you repurpose every one of these items that I just talked about, and we're going to show you a few examples of how you repurpose that.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, there are a lot of different options for types of content that you can post about. Like Nick was saying, you got blog posts, images, video, and webinars and infographics. Basically, you have a ton of different options to choose from. I do want to make clear that you don't have to do all of them. These are really just options to choose from. You pick whatever you're comfortable with. Some people are more comfortable, doing blog posts and posts about that. Some people are more into live video. So it really just depends on what you're comfortable with and what you like sharing with your audience. So actually have
I might add on that, Saul, that your blog post could be turned into just about any one of these other items as well. Or your video could be turned into a blog post, or your webinar could be turned into a blog post and a video. So think about them as I'm going to write this update on legislation, but then I might do a video on it. Or I might do a webinar about new legislation, or, so think in terms of it's a continuous thing so that you don't have to come up with a new topic for every new piece of content.
Right, and that's definitely the general idea of what we're talking about is, come up with that one piece of really interesting content and then just basically using the same thing but reformatting it for each distribution channel and different social media platforms such as blog posts or Facebook posts, Twitter. So, completely saves the time of, coming up with brand new things all the time, but also it makes it more engaging. For the same piece of content, you can engage on very many different levels with different parts of your audience. So definitely cool. Okay, yeah, we actually have a quick poll. We actually want to know from our audience listening today what type of content you typically share with your audience. So let me share this real quick. Let me launch this poll right now.
Okay.
And then you can go ahead and answer blog posts, images, video, webinars. Let me give a few seconds for people to answer. So Nick, where do you think people are most likely going to answer?
My guess would be blog posts, as I see that across the board being where attorneys have become most comfortable and most active, but it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, it looks like people are still putting in their answers right here, so I'll give it a few more seconds before we close the poll. Yeah, the numbers keep on switching. And okay, let's see here. Okay, looks like everybody put in their post. Let me close this poll. I'm going to share the result with you. And it looks like, like you said, Nick, 62% say that they currently share blog posts with their audience. 23% share images and photos, and 15% share video or live video. So pretty online with what you were saying.
Yeah, and that's okay. I think the one area that I would encourage people to try and get more comfortable with and at least be open-minded to is video and live video. That would be my encouragement would be in that direction, because it really gives your audience or your customers the chance to get to know, like, and trust you.
Right. And like you said before, let's say you already have blog posts already on your website. You can literally convert whatever content you wrote in your blog post and make a video out of it. So you don't even need, like right now, you can go to your legal site, whatever blog post you have up there now, maybe this afternoon you can make a live video about it.
Right.
So you don't even have to create a new topic. So definitely very cool.
And you don't have to do just the live. You could do recorded. You could record it right on your smartphone, and you could upload that to YouTube. So if you're nervous about interacting live, then think about doing recorded, or you may want somebody who is more professional with video who helps you, assist you to making a more polished video. Those are important, but think about video is where I would have you not necessarily focus, but I would want our audience to get much more comfortable with that.
Right. Okay, cool. So I have on this slide a little bit. So most people answered that they have C# blog posts, and some said images and photos. So we have just a quick list of the different places that they can share it to, and I want to show you the next slide over here. You put over here the blog post example. So talk to us a little bit about the different places to share and how that should be shared.
Yeah. So a few examples here. So this is a blog post. I just took some screenshots of where some of you may be aware of Mitch Jackson. Mitch Jackson is very active social media, very active on social media. He's an attorney in Southern California, and he's probably the leading attorney in social media as far as his activity is concerned. And so I took some examples that Mitch has provided. He did this blog post of his father-in-law. It was a great blog post, and he did this blog post, I think, a year or two ago, or maybe even longer. And on the left-hand side, or what you would want to do is you'd want to schedule it to be shared through Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Google+, maybe even on Instagram. In this case, the screenshots that I took, and these are just two examples of multiple examples from Mitch, or what could be multiple examples from Mitch. And the one on the left is on his Facebook page, and the one on the right is a screenshot from Twitter. So here he is with one piece of content being shared across multiple platforms, and that particular piece of content was a blog post.
Right, and that's definitely a great example. And one thing to note is that Mitch writes his posts on Facebook much differently than he does on Twitter. You notice, just want to make it clear for our entire audience that you're not going to necessarily write the same thing in the post what you would on Facebook than you would on Twitter. So talk to us a little bit about, the different strategies. How should I post this on Facebook as opposed to Twitter?
Well, it's pretty simple in this case. In Facebook, you don't have the 140 character limitation. Okay, so you can explain a little bit more about the post that you're sharing, and you probably want to share a little bit, say a little bit more about the post that you're sharing, because it may give somebody, may encourage them then to click on it. Oh, this sounds interesting. I wonder what he learned as an attorney from his father-in-law who used to be a milkman. So you can share a little bit more about the post and inform people more about what they may be clicking on. On Twitter, you're probably, or in this case, it's, he says, Mike the Milkman delivers his 3 keys to success on Twitter, and then link to the post. And so he kept it quite simple because of character limitation on the post. And, there's already a lot coming at you on Twitter. So you want to just get right to the point as to what is this about? And then maybe somebody looks and goes, keys to success from a milkman. I wonder what that's all about. And
actually, it's actually, I actually want to read that article. It seems like really interesting. His father's a milkman, and wow, actually, pretty cool,
Yeah.
And it makes it interesting. It makes it like relatable. Like, hey, my father was a milkman, but like today, this is how I became who I am today. This big, social media guy. I'm a big lawyer. Very, very interesting content to share.
And he adds there's another piece in there that he adds that may not be immediately, that somebody may not pop out at them as what did he really share here? It's personal in nature. And he includes a personal photo that's obviously 40 or 50 years old, probably 40 years old, and so it's personal, and it's also informative. So there's a twist there. It gives people a better look at who Mitch is. Here's Mitch writing about his father-in-law. But he's also, who was at one point a milkman, and he's included a personal photo, so it tugs at the emotional side a little bit more than just did you slip and fall at work, and here's some items to know, which is good information to share. I'm not saying not to share that information, but think about how to share that information.
Right. There has to be some sort of balance between, the professional post. Obviously, you want to have your message out exactly what you're doing, but you also want to share that personal side. Like you said earlier, posts about, your office, a lunch, a fun picnic lunch that you're doing with all your employees.
Right.
Actually, around PracticePanther, where you post pictures of Nala the office dog. So it's like cool, you keep it light, and people tend to enjoy that.
Yeah. You want it to be fun. You don't want it to be just dry, because that isn't going to get somebody to read it or to click on it. So we can go on. I think we've got another example. That was the blog post example.
Yeah. So you got images and photos with, so talk to me about this. I think this is Instagram on the right. And
That's Instagram on the
yeah, and
right.
Twitter.
And
Twitter on the left.
Twitter on the left, correct. So this is an image. This is all it is just a photo that my friends Nicole and Mitch Jackson, Nicole Abood, Mitch Jackson, and Malia Probst and I were at a conference last month called Summit Live. It's about live video. We were all at this conference, and this is just an example where it's professional and personal, and it's content to be reused on multiple platforms. So you can see on the left, I did it through my professional Twitter account, and just saying that, look, we had a great time, because we did. We had a great time, and I wanted to share this photo, and it's where some of us in the live video community got together and had some fun. And these were three people that I was just, really thrilled to see. One of them I met for the first time at that. Malia, I met her for the first time. Nicole and Mitch and I have been at multiple conferences together. And so it was good to get the crew together, and then I can share that. And it gives people a little insight into, hey, these are some folks that I interact with, and quite honestly interact with them on weekly basis, if not more, multiple times a week. And I was able to reshare that. So I shared it on my experts.com Twitter, and then I shared it on my personal Instagram. But it is personal in nature. So that's it. It's just an image of you doing something fun and enjoyable. And because guess what? They talk about the work-life balance, but this is a lot of us do fun stuff related to work, and this is one of those things. And so share about that. Share when you're working and having fun, or share something from an event that you were at, if it's a bar association lunch or dinner or law day, event. Don't be afraid to share those things, because it shows you outside of the office, outside of the courtroom, shows that you're a person and that it's not just polished.
Right. And, it's funny, like today, I guess with a lot of companies out there, it's good for people to understand that there's like real people running the company. It's not just like, running itself to post about the company. It's really, these are real people running,
people behind, yes.
There's people behind it. So
very important. Exactly. And it's one of those things that we dealt with for many years early on in experts.com, is that because by virtue of being online, people just assume that they're going to get some sort of an automated response, which is simply not true. It's one of those things. You guys at PracticePanther may have similar experience by the fact that you're selling software. They assume when they email that they may not get a person. I don't know why this is in 2017. I'm not sure why this is still the impression that some people have. But they do have this feeling that online that you're going to get some sort of an automated response, or there's not a person on the other end of the line, and it's just a website that's set up, and who knows if we'll ever hear back from these people. This gives you that chance to show that there is a human side to you. Mitch actually has a post that you can probably go and Google Mitch Jackson and about being human and showing people your human side. And this is one of those, I was having a good time with some friends and colleagues, and I shared it on Twitter. I shared it my personal Twitter, I believe, Instagram, shared it on Facebook. It was really shared all around.
Right. And actually, the cool thing that we do at PracticePanther is that whenever we get a new employee, we post their picture onto Instagram, Facebook, and we just introduce them like, hey, guys, this is going to be your awesome new tech support guy, to say hi. And we try to create that personal touch that you actually see this is the real person that you're going to be speaking to. If you ever need help, with an issue or technical question, this is a real person. So definitely cool to keep it personal. And and video. So talk to us a little bit about video.
Yeah, so video, here is a great example from Daryl Dixon, who's a trial lawyer in Kentucky. Daryl he's working real hard now to up his game on social media, and he's doing a great job with it. So this is one of those examples. This was not a live video. This was a recorded video. So he recorded it, and as I recall, he did it right on his mobile phone. And you can see that here he shared it on the left-hand side. He took this same video and shared it on Facebook. And on the right-hand side, you can see the video is actually in his Twitter feed on top, but within the Twitter feed, he had linked it on YouTube. So he uploaded this video onto YouTube. So that's 3 different platforms that he shared this video, and all he was sharing, and you can see it, the length of the video says 2 minutes 18 seconds, and he gave 3 tips to help you with storm damage claims. And this was right after they had some tornadoes down in Kentucky. So it was very timely when he posted this video, and then he repurposed it. He can share that again in the future after the next. He can retweet that. He can re-Facebook it. He can post it to LinkedIn. Next time there's a storm that goes through Kentucky and in that area, he can reuse it. That video is done. It was good. It was short, and he'll get a lot of mileage out of that.
Right. And so that was so he did a recording video.
That was a recorded video. This was live video. This is an example of probably one of my most successful as far as live audience. We had over 500 people live in the audience asking questions of this expert witness, Susanna Ryan. She was a great guest. We did this on a live video platform that allowed us to broadcast live while simultaneously recording. And what we've done with that, what she's done with that, is so we had over 500 viewers live, and then we had we saved it. We uploaded it to YouTube. We've linked it to her experts.com profile, and we have we share it through Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Google Plus. Every once in a while we'll repurpose it because it was a great interview, and she gave some great information on forensic DNA issues and blood issues from the perspective of an expert witness. So that it was a really fun interview to do because she was so personable and intellectual on the subject matter that it was great fun. And we did it live and recorded it and reused it. Or repurposed it.
Yeah, over here at PracticePanther, we love, for example, I'll show you the next slide, webinars. For example, this webinar is live, but we record the webinar and we repurpose it for a bunch of different platforms, and we reuse later, such as a blog post. So usually after we do a webinar, we make a webinar recap on our blog. Actually, I have a live example. Let me get out of this quickly. Hopefully everybody can see this. So you see over here, this is actually our blog right now. We did a webinar with Dan Lear from Avo.com about how to increase your Avo rating in 10 steps. What we did was we had the live webinar, and we took that live webinar and we recorded it. We put it on YouTube. We shared it on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and we included the video in a blog post along with a synopsis of exactly what he was talking about. And it's really, really very simple. You just, spend the time to do a webinar and record it, and you can use it across all platforms. So it's really an amazing tool for us that we use. And,
Yep.
You really don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just do it once, but you can share it across everything and use it again.
Yep. Reuse it. Think about it in terms of conserving your energy, or recycling. That's it's similar to that. You're recycling it, you're reusing it, and they term that as repurposing.
Right. And we're actually, I think at some future point, we're going to turn it into an ebook or a white paper. So we're even going further with it, maybe into an infographic.
So
So
you get a lot of mileage out of it.
Getting a lot of mileage out of it. Exactly. Okay, cool. So now that we talked about a lot over this webinar, so a lot of attorneys are like scratching their heads, like, okay, so there's a lot of content I can do. There's a lot of places I can share. So where exactly should they start?
Well, we saw it in the poll that most of them already have blogs. So get yourself a scheduling tool. Take one of those previous blog posts and go schedule it to be shared out on Facebook. Schedule it to be shared out on Twitter, multiple, so share it out on occasion on Facebook, on your Facebook business page. Share it out, once every couple of weeks on that page. You want to rotate other blog posts in there as well in between that time. So share that out, maybe share some interesting articles in addition to it. You don't want to just have the same blog post show up post after post after post. You don't want that. On Twitter, we talked about it earlier, you can tweet a lot. So don't be afraid to schedule it, that particular blog post, once a day over a couple of weeks. Or as you said earlier, when I say that one once a day over a couple of weeks, I'm anticipating that you'll be scheduling other items to be shared in between that. I should have started with that. Don't just share it back to back.
Right.
And we talked about the importance of sharing on Google Plus is that probably clients will never see it because they're no longer there, but attorneys continue to be there, and so do other businesses. So if you want to share a particular piece of content with your colleagues, this is a decent place to be. But there are some value as far as Google search results. They do tend to pick up information out of there and still have that apply to their Google search. So don't spend a lot of time there, but at least go over there and post it once when it's new. And then, repurpose that blog post or the idea, the topic out of that blog post. You may want to do a 60-second video that you then upload to Instagram. And then on Snapchat, this is, we're not going to spend a lot of time on this one, but it is something where you can tell the story of your blog post in 10-second videos. So it allows you to snap 10 seconds or to record 10 seconds at a time. You can string them together for a story. You don't have to create new content. You're basically just summarizing what that blog post was from the beginning. And you can also save that story and upload it into YouTube if you wish.
Right. So just to summarize for the live audience. So basically, you really, most of you, 63% of you said you have a blog post. So just repurpose it. You have, from the screen over here, you have 6 different options. Repurpose it, post it on Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus, Instagram. And it's also just, what you're comfortable with. If you're not comfortable using Snapchat, not everybody has to use Snapchat. Some people like it. But, you don't have to use Snapchat, but, it's good to have options and, feel what you're most comfortable with. And then, literally, my suggestion is literally after this webinar, go to your blog post and see what you can post immediately. Sign up for Buffer, sign up for Hootsuite. Really make this practical. It's very, very easy. So, after this webinar, go straight to get your blog post Buffer and sign up and try for yourself.
And start scheduling something right away. And don't forget LinkedIn. I think I may have left it out of that slide, but you may want to post it at least once on LinkedIn as well, once every month or something.
Absolutely, yeah. I think I just didn't have the room for it, but
okay,
definitely. Okay, cool. So we definitely covered a lot of ground in terms of the different tools that you can use and different strategies. And we definitely really, really thank you, Nick, for giving us some of your insight and experience in social media for attorneys. So now what we want to do is we want to open it up for questions. If anybody has a particular question, you can ask on the bottom of the GoToWebinar little little bar down there. Ask your questions to either Nick or me. In the meantime, we have a few questions that were emailed to us before the webinar.
Oh, cool.
So I want to go ahead and ask you just a few questions. So we got a question from Joanne. She asked us, how important do you see Snapchat becoming as a marketing tool for attorneys?
Okay, so that's a great question. Snapchat, well, I would ask Joanne this: where do you think the kids are at? Where do you think millennials are at? And who's your audience? Those are questions I would ask. If you're doing DUI defense, you might want to be on Snapchat and Instagram. You probably want to be on Snapchat and Instagram because that's where the younger, I call them kids, but I'm thinking college age and those who are soon to go to college and those types of things. They're on Snapchat and Instagram more than they are on Facebook because there's less parents there. There's less adults there. I know Mitch Jackson is active on Instagram because his college-age daughter told him that's where on Snapchat because that's where his college-age daughter told him that her friends are at, and that is one of the reasons that he's over there. So it is, think about your audience. Who is your prospective customer? If, a great place for one of my friends, a DUI attorney in Maryland, our criminal defense attorney in Maryland, and he does some good stuff on Snapchat. Scott McMullen does some good stuff on Snapchat. You can be really entertaining over there. You can have a little more fun with it, and it's a good place to be depending on whether or not your audience is there. So if you're doing wills and trusts and estates, you're probably going to want to spend more of your time on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, but Instagram is up there as well now. 600 million users, I think, is the last number I heard on Instagram. So Snapchat may be less important if you have a older clientele, older demographic clientele, but Snapchat and Instagram, if your clientele is younger and tends to get in trouble or is just younger for any purpose, you may want to be over there.
Great. So definitely, depending on the audience that you're targeting, you can, decide if you want to go with Snapchat or Instagram. Cool.
Right.
So we also got a question from Jason. So he said he's heard of a tool called Schedulegram. So is it good? So I'll take that. So actually, PracticePanther uses Schedulegram for its Instagram. So Schedulegram, very simply, is very similar to Buffer. It's very similar to Hootsuite, but it's only for Instagram. So for example, if you're only, using Instagram, you might not want to use Hootsuite or Buffer because they tend to also, help with Facebook posts, Twitter posts. But if you want to just focus on the Instagram posts, then Schedulegram's the way to go. It's a really, really awesome tool. Super, super simple to use. All you need to do is, just upload your image, add your little, text, and then you can schedule from there. Very similar to Buffer and Hootsuite. So definitely recommend it. Greg asked a question. Are there certain days, I think we talked about this a little earlier, but are there certain days or times of day that work best to post content?
Yeah, good question, Greg. And that there are certain times of the day, but it's going to depend on where you're located, and Buffer will help you to schedule based on what the best times are, but certainly early morning, lunchtime, evening time. Think about when people are least likely to be at work and not looking at their social media, and that's probably going to be a good guide for you. But Buffer will be able to assist you with the most appropriate times.
Cool. And this is a really interesting question from Natalie. She asked, you recommend boosting posts on Facebook?
Yeah, that's a topic. That's a topic for another webinar, really, Natalie. It is one of those things. If you build a strong enough community, you won't have to do that. If you don't have time to build that strong community, and you're looking, then boosting posts is not a bad idea, but it can be costly, and your return, unless you're going to do it as an ongoing Facebook ongoing real Facebook ad campaign, then it may not be the best for you. Remember, you're already going to be reusing this information, so they may not see it the first time, but they may see it another time. So I'm hesitant to have you start spending a lot of money on ads, but maybe you have some input on that, Saul.
Yeah, I would suggest, lately Facebook changed their algorithm for business profiles. To your audience, whoever, all your friends, your audience. But with business profiles, they actually put on your personal account. So I guess what I would suggest is, for those
in Facebook ad campaigns, probably for multiple different businesses, might be even a good webinar on that alone. So
sure,
you get some real details on that type of information.
Exactly. Like we were saying before, just doing this webinar, we already created a topic for a webinar. So,
yeah.
So there you go. So there you go. And looks like we got one more question from Nicola Bood. She asked, can you give us an example of a lawyer or two who are doing content creation the right way?
Yeah, I think I already gave them to you, and but I'll give you a couple of others. I gave you a few who are doing content creation. Nicola Bood is one of them.
There you go.
Mitch Jackson is another. Daryl T. Dixon is another. Morris Lilienthal is one. Brian Fishman out of Philadelphia. I'm trying to think of some of the other. Robinette Legal Group, Jeff Robinette, it does some great stuff. Dolman Law Group out of Florida, they do some good stuff. Hoffman Law Firm out of Missouri does good work, and Glotzer Law Firm, Joshua Glotzer Law Firm out of Orange County, they do good work as well. These are law firms who are doing quite a bit. They're very active on social media channels and their blog, and some of them are even working their way into video. So I did try and include in that, and Nicole just told me that she actually asked that question before she had seen the slides. She messaged me that, and so I did try and include those questions or those answers in some of the slides. That was why I included some of those folks, because they are doing social media correctly.
Right.
So, but I also gave a list of others that people may want to look up, who I think are doing a good job with their social platforms, social media.
Right. And if any of you who are listening right now want to reach out to any of those people, you can ask. They're very, very open to, helping you, giving you some tips, helping you get started. So you can either email me at saul@PracticePanther.com or email Nick directly, nick@experts.com, and hopefully we'll be able to follow up with you on that. But looks like right now we're out of questions.
Okay.
So again, if you have, those of you listening, if you have any more questions, please email us directly at the end of the webinar. So far, it's really been an incredible webinar so far. So I want to thank you again, Nick, so much for joining us, and for everybody listening. This webinar was recorded, so we will email it to you shortly. Nick, a lot of people don't know what you do full-time at experts.com. Just let everybody know what you do specifically and how you work with attorneys.
Yeah, so experts.com is an online marketing platform for expert witnesses and consultants. So if you're an attorney in need of an expert witness, the old style of doing things was to reach out to a third-party broker and ask them to find an expert for you, and they would do that, but there would be usually a finder's fee for locating the expert, and then they would mark up every expert witness billable hour. So in a large litigation, that gets real expensive. And what we do is we remove the need for the middleman. You can search our site 24/7, contact the experts directly. The experts pay to be members to advertise on our site. you can contact them directly. You can communicate with them and negotiate with them directly. We do offer a value-added service if you do not want to do the search yourself. We do a value-added service at about $125 an hour, but there is still no markup for every billable hour. Once you've selected the experts, we are out of it entirely. But I would caution you that 95% of what you need can be found on the website without having to reach out to us. So just hey, we're talking about getting comfortable with digital platforms across the board. So try searching the site and reaching out to the experts directly.
Definitely, and those attorneys who are interested in mixed services or want to check out experts.com, simply go to their website, experts.com, or you can email Nick directly. He'll be able to assist you later.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So awesome. So once again, we want to thank everybody for joining us today. Once again, this webinar was recorded, so we will email it to you shortly. So Nick, thank you once again for taking the time to be here with us.
Thank you, Saul. I appreciate it.
You're really awesome. All right. Until next time. Bye for now.
Have a good day.
You too.